If everybody's ready, if you're able to, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. I'll call the meeting to order, and one of you ladies will take roll. That'd be wonderful.
Yes, Mayor. Mayor Troy Smith.
Present.
Alderman Casey Billiard. Present. Alderman Jeremy Hill.
Present.
Alderman David Keene.
Present.
Alderman Joyce Lancaster. Present. Alderman Scott Swatosh. Alderman Carol Wilson. I received an email that Carol Wilson will not be able to attend today. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Perfect, thank you. All right, item number 2, agenda. Are any amendments to the agenda?
No amendments this evening.
Okay, if you have had a chance to look over the agenda, can we get a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as written.
Second.
We have a first and second. Alderman Billiard.
Yes.
Alderman Hill.
Yes.
Alderman Keene.
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster.
Yes.
Okay, item number
Thank
3,
you.
consent agenda. Are there any questions or alterations or anything we need to know about that? All right, if everybody's had a chance to look over that, can we have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
I have a first and a second. Alderman Billiard.
Yes.
Alderman Hill.
Yes.
Alderman Keene.
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item number 4, current outstanding invoices, drafts and check paid invoices.
We did a couple this go around. We were working on a quick renovation over the Cox and Rec Building to rehouse Jason over there. And there were a couple of other small additions this go around. We're still holding in a good position, not adding lots like we used to. So.
Okay. If there are no questions or comments, can we have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the outstanding invoices, drafts, and check paid invoices.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Alderman Billiard.
Yes.
Alderman Hill.
Yes.
Alderman Keene.
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item number 5, citizen input. If there is anybody out there that would like to step forward, state your name, address, and provide any input, feel free to do so. And see nobody, we'll close section 5. Item number 6, discussion on the Water Advisory Board applications.
So on the advisory board applications, we do not have enough to meet the criteria in the ordinance. We had asked for no more than 2 to be out of town, and the remainder to be in town. We actually have only 1 from in town, and the rest are from out of town. So you have a couple of options on that one. We can amend the rules to allow more out of town, or just any application. Or we can try to solicit some more applications from in town. Folks who might be interested in serving.
I'm really surprised we didn't have more people apply with all of the outcry that we have.
It seemed like a lot of the out-of-town people was the focus of the outcry. Most of the in-town that we had there was not a lot of.
Yeah, we only had one person show up to speak on behalf of in-town people.
That is true.
So it kind of made sense with the amount of out-of-towns we got. There were people who had been vocal. But really, that's why it's a discussion instead of a decision tonight, is just really to get some direction as far as, would you like us to entertain amending the ordinance to allow a different makeup of the board, or just some more time to...
I assume there was something on the webpage, our website about it.
Yeah, we had bill inserts asking for applications. I think word has traveled around as well, and I know Angie's posted, mentioning it as well, so there's been various outlets. I think we've had maybe 2, possibly even 3 calls on the website.
If we have to postpone the creation of that board, it won't negatively affect really anything at this point, will it? As far
No,
as-
nothing relies on the board's existence. The board was really implemented as a way to give the board here a conduit to the public, and then the public a conduit back to the board. Some members in the rate hearings expressed concern about not feeling heard, so it was intended to provide that voice for them. It also was, something that will be helpful, I think, for the city as far as running things by them, and maybe a backwards conduit back to the public as well. But as far as being able to do business, I don't think it's going to affect our ability to continue to operate.
I would say we can give it a little more time
Little more time.
for recruitment,
Yeah.
so that we can meet and satisfy the elements of the ordinance.
Yeah.
And then, for an extended time, if we don't, then we'll make a decision from there.
Okay. All right. We'll give it another month and we'll revisit.
I mean, that's just my opinion. I mean, if you guys have a different opinion, by all means.
I think we set the parameters that way for a broader spectrum. And it's a little, I mean, I already feel like it's a little bit unbalanced just because it is supposed to be more for community input. But to only have one person from in town apply is kind of unusual to me.
Not that I'm volunteering here, but, I mean, I know David does stuff with planning and zoning. Is that something that an alderman could be appointed as part of that
I
board?
would, my personal preference would be keep them separated.
Okay.
I think you could.
Because that's what we're running into is, I mean, there's already a small amount of the population that is volunteering for our groups. And of course, we face the scrutiny and criticism that it's the same people, but unfortunately, it's the same people who volunteer. So if we could keep from overlapping personnel and volunteers on boards, I think it'd be best. So we all know people in the community, maybe we can hit some people up and see if we can't initiate, motivate some volunteerism. And we'll give it another month or so, and then if we don't get anything, we'll go from there.
Okay. All right. That's what I'll do.
I do have somebody that asked, do they need to be connected to sewer or water? You know?
I don't think it specifies, it just specifies inside the city
To
limits.
apply.
I think we did call for customers of the system,
It has to be-
either
they have to be on
inside or
system.
outside. Yeah.
To be on that board, yeah.
Not necessarily both services. I know some folks only have septic,
Okay.
and I think that would be okay.
I don't
Just
know if
needs
you
to
know
be
if
a
they're
custom.
United or not, but, okay.
Does he live inside the city, but he's on well and
He's on
septic?
the other side of 160, and I believe he's on well and septic.
Okay.
Again, the board can always
Yeah,
modify.
let's see what we can scratch up in the next month and
Yeah.
go from there.
Yeah.
All right, item number 7, a resolution of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Wheeling, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to sign the consent to modifications with Verizon Communications.
This one I'm gonna recommend we table for now. The engineers here have not satisfied Cochran, who is helping us with our engineering, that the planned upgrades will not damage the town, so Cochran has engaged with them to kind of arrange the details. So I would rather keep the consent hanging out there as a motivational tool for Verizon's engineers to come up with a satisfactory agreement for Cochran.
Do you want to vote to table that?
We can do that, yep.
Then if you are in agreement, can we get a vote to table item number 12?
I'll make a motion that we table the resolution, or discussing the resolution for the modifications for Verizon to our next meeting.
Second?
I have a first and a second. Alderman Williard?
Yes.
Alderman Hill?
Yes.
Alderman Keane?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hey Wes, on that, are we wanting to expand services on the water tower? Because that's what they're asking to do, is to add additional 3.
No, it's not an expansion, it's supposed to be a replacement, and that's what Verizon's trying to flesh out is, are you adding or are you upgrading, or what are you doing?
I talked to the guy from Verizon, he's replacing 6 and adding 3.
Well, we'll let Copper and them do their thing. I don't necessarily think we have a problem with expansion, provided what they do doesn't damage the tank any further, and if they're ready to remove their equipment, when we get to the point of upgrading and improving the tank.
Okay, item number 13, a resolution of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Willard, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Sac River Cowboy Church for water line installation.
This one will be a resolution for the mayor to sign an agreement once we get a dollar amount figured out and a date of install figured out with Sac River Church. I think, as I understand it, all the terms have been agreed to. We're just waiting on dollars, but it's not for the city to expend money. It'll be money coming into the city in exchange for the services to install and extend service.
Are they not currently on our water?
This is for a new church they're putting in down by EE, isn't it? Yeah.
Where they've got their event center?
Yeah, so the event center is required to have sprinklers, and in order to have sprinklers, you have to have a 6-inch water line. So they're upgrading their existing service to a 6-inch line to accommodate the new event center.
And they're paying for all that?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think are they annexing as well, or is that
Yeah, they've already signed the irrevocable decree of annexation, so we're gonna wait for a couple key, talk to a couple key people, and see if we can't get 2 or 3 properties at the same time to annex, so.
Can we have a motion?
Make a motion for a resolution of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Willard, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Sac River Cowboy Church for water line installation.
I'll second.
I have a first and a second. Alderman Villiard? Yes. Alderman Hill?
Yes.
Alderman King?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 14, a resolution approving estimate E is an Echo 24-0684 from Enroute Enterprises for the installation of equipment in 2 police cruisers.
Part of the enterprise lease this year, we added 2 new cruisers to the police department fleet. Typically, when new vehicles are added, the equipment from the old vehicle is taken out and moved over, and then any necessary upgrades added onto that. In this case, these are 2 new vehicles, so we don't have existing equipment to borrow from the old vehicle. So this is 2 new full installations on vehicles. This will allow Tom to have NRAP proceed. I think they have the vehicles there right now, don't they? And they're just pending an agreement to install the equipment.
Will this fill out our full fleet?
Yeah, adding the 2 new vehicles, we now have we'll be back to, well, we were at a full fleet. We're technically adding 2 to the fleet. But all the fleet should be operational with these 2, right, Carolyn? You're aware of any other vehicles that need any tweaks?
I don't think so.
The only other upcoming tweak we have will be the motor rollers going into the system for the dash cams and the body cams.
There is one older vehicle that'll get switched over,
Oh, okay.
but there are only 2 new ones.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution approving the estimate from Enroute Enterprises for the installation of equipment in the 2 new cruisers.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Alderman Villiard?
Yes.
Alderman Hill?
Yes.
Alderman King?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, item number 15, a resolution adopting the city clerk and public information officer job description.
So we hired in Rebecca as clerk with PIO as well. So what I've done here is I have taken the role of a PIO and kind of merged it with the existing job description for clerk. It's, of course, being used for accountability, performance management, and whatnot, so that Rebecca knows the scope and breadth of her job. So with your approval, I would like to adopt this a new job description for Rebecca's position. And then if in the future things change, we can easily separate them back out to two individual job descriptions.
I'll make a motion for a resolution adopting the city clerk and public information officer job description.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Alderman Villiard?
Yes.
Alderman Hill?
Yes.
Alderman Key?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 16, a resolution adopting the Public Works and Water Sewer Director job description.
Kind of similar to Rebecca, when Trevor stepped up into the Public Works Director role, we had a discussion about him also covering the utilities position that he was vacating. He has not yet run screening for the Hills, so I assume it's okay. So similarly, just merging two job descriptions here together for accountability and performance measurement. And then if Trevor later on, as we grow, decides I'm going to have someone do this other stuff, we'll be able to separate those out again and individualize the two positions.
So I have kind of a question on that.
Sure.
Just, again, it's potentially a big take. Thanks, Trevor. Do we have an assistant underneath that to assist him?
He has JR, who I think is pretty fantastic, but I'll let Trevor speak for himself.
JR is very fantastic. Yeah, I got JR and Shane under me, so Shane's the assistant director, JR's kind of the utility supervisor kind of position, so.
Okay, just making sure that,
Utilities has somebody over it, and he has Shane to lean on to as far as public works overall. I think they have a pretty strong, solid team. I don't think we have any concerns, but Trevor knows if it starts being a bit too pinchy, you know where to find me, don't you?
I know exactly where you're at.
His old position is still budgeted, but, you know, right now they're merged together, but if we have to separate them out, we can consider that down the road.
I'm taking on extra tasks sometimes can get overwhelming after a while, so.
Yeah.
I would make a motion that we accept the resolution adopting the Public Works and Water Sewer Director's job description.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Alderman Villiard? Yes. Alderman Hill?
Yes.
Alderman Key?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 17, this is the first read, an ordinance accepting the lease by Lakeland Office System to provide a printer for the Public Works Department and the authorization of the mayor to execute all necessary documents on behalf of the city of Willard, Missouri.
Alan, you want to take that one?
This is the lease, it's a printer for the Public Works. Their printer's like 10 years old.
At least.
I don't know, it's very old. And it's the same kind of printer that the utility clerks have. And it's $64.57 a month. It's for a 5-year lease. They furnish the ink and magnets on it. It's the same lease as we have on our other printers. Have any questions?
Make a motion that we approve the ordinance as read.
Second.
We don't need them.
We don't need it on.
We don't need to vote on it.
These are first
Just
reads.
want to make sure there was no questions or concerns. So we're good. Next, item 18 is this second read, an ordinance of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Willard, Missouri, establishing a uniform policy for public works staff of the City of Willard.
Before considering a second read, of course, we have Vestas as the current uniform contract provider. It's not a great contract. It's not looking likely we'll get out of it as easily as we'd hoped. Trevor thought he was onto a winner, but did not pan out. We're hoping to at least do the contractual minimum to cut the costs down as much as we can on that. And if an opportunity presents itself, if the board would like us to proceed with this uniform policy, we may start at least building a shelf supply. But we're still kind of locked into that old contract, so it'd be, you know, a savings manifest kind of thing. So the alternative is we can either table this and wait until the contract takes care of itself, or pass this with the understanding that we won't implement it until that contract is taken care of, and we can just build up a shelf supply.
How much longer are we in the contract for?
I think it's 2 more years, isn't it?
Might
But we've got it down where we have 3 employees now on the contract, and they would actually rather have the uniforms that Vestas supplies.
Okay.
So we're down to 3 employees on it, but.
Okay.
But then it's not really a uniform if not everybody is the same.
Yeah.
Right.
The
That's-
challenges they have with their uniform is what they use to work in the field is, you know, it's not ideal for them. It's too
no.
heavy and cumbersome, it's
I
rotten,
agree,
so.
yeah.
If we can hybridize our approach, I think it would be beneficial to Public Works. We just have to be more mindful of the spend to keep it within budget.
So we only have 3 people utilizing the Vestas uniforms?
Yeah.
Do we have a minimum that we have to purchase from them? So, just from previous experience, and again, I probably won't vote on this just because of our relationships. I know that there are places that just get their jeans through there, and then you could do your t-shirt or whatever shirt you were wanting to do that was more. So have we looked at what other options that we could do that and still be compliant?
The contract is written, I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but it was not necessarily recommended, I think, in good form. We have quite a significant minimum. We're hopeful that maybe we can get by with not sending a whole bunch of stuff every time we send stuff, but I mean, technically, if you look at the terminology of the contract, if we're not using the minimum, we're in violation of contract, so I think we have to be careful how we approach it. Trevor's conversation with the territory manager seemed to look like it was going to be a fairly easy cancel, and then he took somebody at Vestas, and I mean, they were threatening to sue us if we tried to cancel, so.
Is there no contract buyout if that's cheaper than?
No, the contract is like a 2-pager, it's very,
There
very
is a
simple.
buyout option.
Is there a buyout option?
There is a buyout option, but it's probably gonna be more pricey than what it would cost to even just buy us, you know, uniforms. So, yeah.
Carolyn and I's hope is we can maybe just tread water with as low as we can get away with, and
Just know what your minimum purchase is on the month and stay at that point.
They never said anything about breach of contract at 3 people. The territory manager said that, you know, that's fine if you're wanting to take it down to 3 people. So that wasn't mentioned as a breach at that point.
Yeah.
Having had some previous experience again, they have been known to bill for what the minimum is regardless.
That was my anticipation, was they'll make sure they get what they're supposed to get. Yeah, I mean, it's the past, it's gone, it's not necessarily the most recommended route, especially with staff saying they don't appreciate the uniforms, because they're too cumbersome, you know, I've seen what they wear, I couldn't imagine
Yeah,
working in the
especially out in
sun,
the
that
summertime.
black shirts in
That
the
was
sun,
what I
it's not
thought
a
at the
great
beginning.
combination. But we're kind of locked into it, it doesn't seem like there's a good out unless they slip up at some point and breach their own contract, but it sounds like when there's problems, they fix them pretty quickly, so it's unlikely we'll find the exit. But I just want to be kind of transparent about that, you know, the original intent had been we would implement the uniform policy as that died out, but it will be a while. If the board is still willing, I think the Public Works will appreciate moving in a different direction, just for the fact that they're doing a lot of work. And, you know, heavy stuff is motivated stuff, and if they're hot, sweaty, and uncomfortable, it's not to be motivated.
They're not on a uniform policy at the time.
What is the
That's what I'm
buyout?
hearing.
I think what they want is different uniform, which is
They would wear it different, but not have a mandated one at this point.
They're gonna
It'll
get
be what the city provides, so we'll buy the same stuff for all the stuff.
Right, but they don't like what's currently provided, is what I'm
No,
hearing.
yes, no, they don't
Okay.
like it at all.
So if we don't shelf this, they would have to wear what the city is currently providing.
Yep,
Can we find out what the buyout would be?
we can do that,
Just for grins?
just for
Mhm.
grants.
And like I
Because
said, they
if
might
we-
be able to provide jeans,
Yeah,
Or
Well,
if there's
the-
alternatives?
shirts, or an alternative.
City already gives a uniform allowance and then to buy their own jeans, as I
But if we
understand
were
it.
to stop doing that
If
and
you-
do the jeans through Vestas, if they
Do-
have that option,
do the
So-
jeans through Vestas and then the city buy t-shirts or whatever it is that they want.
The jeans were actually supplied through Vestas in a contract, but they were carpenter pants and they were all super heavy, super hot. So everybody just turned all their jeans in and we were all just wearing our own jeans, which that was working fine. The $250 at the beginning of the year is a boot allowance, that's supplied so people can buy their own boot, because $250 for a pair of boots is, you know, pretty standard.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the route that we went on, and then nobody really likes the shirts, and I don't blame them.
It's a specific style,
Yeah,
and it's a
yeah.
preference, I
And
get that.
they're not high vis, I would prefer.
Can we change to a different type of shirt through them? Do they have that availability?
They should.
I would think because they are a uniform supplier, they should have every type
A
of
vast
shirt
availability.
available.
Yeah,
So
And
what
even
if
with
they had
jeans.
right, they should have other materials available. So maybe we should get with our Vestas rep and say, here's the problems with what we've got. It was picked by one individual, it was not presented well to the staff. We are wanting to look a different route. What do you have that's gonna work for our staff? Show us what you got.
Yeah, I think there's an auction, you had trouble getting a hold of the territory manager, but it did eventually show up, didn't it?
so it was kind of a whole big ordeal. There were multiple issues. They haven't accepted our tax exempt form. They're still charging us for lockers that we don't even have. They're not bringing us our uniforms.
That all sounds
Sounds
like
like
that's
their
contract
contract.
on their end.
Yeah,
So that can be brought up to them.
And that was brought up to them multiple times.
Hey
and-
Nate,
is that
are you making notes?
something you
But
could,
we haven't been paying the cost though, right?
Yeah, we have been paying it, yeah.
Why?
They've been sending the bill and the checks have been written. Yeah.
so.
If we're not
can we
getting the
get them on
services.
false
Yeah.
bill
Well, I didn't know we were-
list?
Okay. I mean, that's, I asked that in one of the emails, I didn't know that we were paying the overcharges. I thought we just weren't paying the bills and they weren't billing us, they weren't.
His,
Yeah, like you said, it was, we were sending less than.
his last email to me was there was no way possible that we could end up with other people's shirts, and then I took a picture of one of the other people's shirts that were delivered and sent it to him. So I say, yeah, I mean, here's proof that we got somebody else's shirt that doesn't even, it's like a Jasper Transmissions shirt, so somebody else's.
Does that give you some more ammunition?
Well, I think we talked about them giving us extra stuff isn't necessarily, it's not good business, but it's not a breach of
Right.
necessarily, as long as we're getting what we ordered. But I know they had sent us a bill on a date they didn't bring anything, and I thought we just didn't pay it, which we shouldn't pay it if we didn't get anything that day.
There was twice that had happened, that they showed up whenever we weren't.
I mean, that was kind of, there were 2 times that we were on holiday. I didn't know if we'd actually told them we weren't gonna be here that Monday, and that's where I was trying to figure out if they showed up and we just weren't here, or if we were told, they told them we weren't here, they just didn't schedule a new
Wouldn't they
date.
assume that we're a government entity and it's a holiday, they should not come that day?
Yeah, but we have holidays that some people don't take as holidays as a government entity. I mean, there's a few more that we take that some people don't, so.
Well, needless to say, in the future, we'll probably want to review what they're going to be providing before we select them as a vendor,
Yeah.
so we don't run into this.
And they changed ownerships too, right?
Yeah, they changed ownership, so we actually don't even have a manager over our account anymore, because they don't have one. So we got a different manager from a different area that is saying, okay, I will take care of your account for now, but, yeah. And he said, yeah, I know, there's been some kind of change of hands go on in Springfield, so, yeah.
So do we want to table this and see, you can have a discussion with them?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Does that sound good, everybody?
Potentially
Yes.
still does, just under different name.
Okay, so can we get a motion to table this until Nate can work some
Make a motion
duty?
to table item 18 as read until further information is brought forth.
I'll second.
I have a first, a second. Alderman Boone,
Yes.
Alderman Hill,
Yes.
Alderman King,
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, item number 19, this is a second reading, an ordinance establishing a performance evaluation and merit raise policy for full-time employees of the city of Willard.
Nothing more to add on this that hasn't already been discussed. It's just kind of setting the basis for bringing on personnel policies into the modern era.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance as read.
A
Second.
Who seconded it? Thank you. I have a first and a second. Alderman Beelier.
Yes.
Alderman Hill.
Yes.
Alderman Keane.
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, item number 20 I have as a first reading, an ordinance adopting the city of Willard disciplinary policy.
This is a new one. I think I spoke about this last week and, or last meeting, and had a bit more time than I thought to really dig into it. So, Nate has reviewed this one, looked okay. It doesn't change any of the at-will nature of employment with the city. What it does is set up a structured approach for how we address discipline, so that staff can kind of know what to expect. What it doesn't capture, some question I had from Joyce earlier as far as, actually I think it was Troy, so, when people get on certain parts of the spectrum, there's still discussions that have taken place before that. So if someone's going to get a written warning, there would be some involvement by the HR director and myself, kind of looking at precedent and things like that. But this is going to lay out the structure of where we go, what we do, what the likely consequences are, and how that processes through the system. And then it ties back into the merit policy as far as where you lay on this disciplinary policy may and possibly will affect someone's ability to qualify for a merit increase when they get their evaluation. So your options really are, you can we can discuss it today, we give some insight, or we can proceed to a first read and move to approve it at the next meeting. Right now, our policy is about a paragraph and then a whole long list of things that you shouldn't do, which are kind of common sense. So we've reversed it a little bit, and the list is now a lot shorter, and then the discussion about how it works is a little bit longer, a little bit more structured.
Any
Good to move to the first reading.
discussions? Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Item number 21. Second read for an ordinance revising and replacing section 400.1500 of the city code on excavation.
So this is, I just wanted to follow up with a couple items. I got an email about the applicability of the ordinance. This was not intended to regulate homeowners that are gardening in their easement or want to re-landscape their yard.
Jeremy, did you send an email?
I can neither confirm or deny, okay? But,
I own it.
so on the
Less government.
on the applicability, page 1, section 400.1500B, I'm taking out the word person. So now it should read any firm, corporation, or other entity engaging in excavation grading. Dislocation or relocation of material within the city limits of Willard should comply with this section. And then there's going to be an exception underneath that stating that this section does not apply to single-family homeowners in the acts of gardening, landscaping, or regrading their property. Just to make that clear that this was corporation-based for utilities, grading, different things like that. If you want to put corn in, go put corn in. Okay.
So is that what we're growing this year, Joyce?
This came out of the chasing a contractor around town, and of course, community noticed a few rough edges from that development, so the decision was made to kind of constrict them to an area where they would be more easily monitored and tracked, and hopefully avoid issues like that next time.
I will say, having been at the planning and zoning meeting where this was first brought up, makes this make a whole lot more sense because of the discussion around that initial,
Yeah, I mean, they chewed on it pretty good.
yeah.
They chewed on it pretty good.
But we do appreciate that, the question that came in, because obviously we don't want to put an ordinance in that appears to have a broad applicability,
Right.
so, we appreciate that and do encourage you anytime you guys catch something that, because you're reading it from a different perspective, so if it looks broad, we may not apply it broadly, but somebody else
Right.
could, so it's good to catch that stuff and make that.
Well, exactly, because sitting in that meeting, when it was first brought about, it was solely discussed from that perspective,
Yeah,
not at all from a homeowner perspective.
yeah, but I would greatly encourage anytime you see something with that broad base, let's clarify that language and make sure it targets, because we're all, you read it a few times and you're involved in the discussion and
Yeah,
it's just, you know what it means, but yeah.
it never would have crossed my mind to look at it from that angle.
Move any dirt within the city, I think is how I read it. I'm like, wait just a minute.
You're touching that dirt, Joyce.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that Mike is going to retire someday and whoever interprets,
Right.
and I think that's,
Next week?
That's,
I think that's honestly, I mean, as a citizen and as well as a board member, it's,
Yeah.
what is the future of this hold if
5
I'm
years
not
ago.
sitting here to defend myself?
true.
Or if Mike, like I said, when Mike retires or Wes retires, that, I honestly would like to see our ordinances greatly decrease and have less government involvement in, but I get, when you have contractors that don't do their jobs and don't,
It's usually the 10% that rule the 90 when it comes to ordinances. You make ordinances because 10% of people just don't get it. So, sadly.
if you can't enforce it, don't make an ordinance, is how I feel about most of them, but,
well, Mike can enforce it on this one.
Oh, yeah.
on this one you can, but, yeah, no, that, like I said, that was what the,
And honestly, food for future thought, there are consultants that can come in and kind of go through ordinances and tidy up and look for applicability, legality, and everything
That
else.
costs
Make sure
money,
it's-
and we don't need to do that
We
right
don't,
now.
yeah.
But it's, no, definitely not something we could probably afford right now, it's expensive, but, sometimes you have to have a reset, and that may be food for future thought, is have someone come in and take a look and help us tidy up.
but I mean, it's just like when we were discussing the fireworks thing. If the police are not going to enforce it, why do we have an ordinance that says they can't set these off? Because that just makes me mad as a citizen, that we have a law that we're not enforcing, and, I mean, but, again, so. I was not just paranoid about it.
No,
It's like-
I'd be willing to drop all the nuisance stuff.
It was
Right now.
genuinely good question.
So, just in clarification, also under the definition of person, this was brought up to me that we will be taking person out of the definition of person. So a person that now will be any partnership, corporation, or other entity. It no longer includes just being a person. So, thank you for that. I wish Scott was here. He had a question on the insurance side of things. Let's see, let me get to it. Yeah, so 1500F talks about insurance, certificate of insurance for wrongful death, property damage, or personal injury. Under the current ordinance, it states that they'll have a sum of not less than $500,000 per occurrence. Those sums vary greatly. It depends on if it's an occurrence or if you want the total policy. Whatever's easier. It is kind of confusing being per occurrence. Usually you have $1 million policy for wrongful death, and then so we can arrange it any way the board would like. If you want it to read, thou shalt have $1 million wrongful death policy, or if you can keep it the same, thou shalt have $500,000 per incident, it is totally up to you.
Do you have any idea what the norm is? Is there kind of a society, or a local norm, whether it's 500,000 or $1 million?
I saw a lot of $1 million policies, for wrongful death for, corporations and stuff like that when they're doing utility work, but, I think that'd be an easy overall fix, is we just change the wording to, instead of per incident, you'll have $1 million worth of, no less than $1 million of wrongful death insurance.
I don't think they'll have problems getting that either way.
Yeah, it's just preference of the board. Scott brought it up last time, so I did some research and I'm just following up.
Okay.
So if you have a preference, please let me know. And with the ordinance, obviously, this is a second read, so are there any other questions of what we went over before? And if there's not any other questions, we just need this approved as amended. The approval the changes can take effect. If we don't have any, like I said, if it doesn't matter on the insurance, which way you want it, we can keep it the same, that way we don't have to amend it, but everything else that has been discussed will be amended as discussed.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
So can we get a second read and just go with it as amended in the read?
So this was the first read.
This is the second read.
Yeah, you still have some, that's right.
Okay. Which one's good?
All right, so I'll read the ordinance. An ordinance revising and replacing section 400.1500 of the city code excavation as amended.
Perfect.
Make a motion that we approve the ordinance as read.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Alderman Billiard.
Yes.
Alderman Hill.
Yes.
Alderman King.
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, item number 22 is a first read, an ordinance adding section 400.520 of the city code -520.010 approaches.
So I'm gonna make this real quick. This is basically just amending the ordinance, allowing a homeowner to come in and provide the material for a new approach. Schedule time with Public Works, and Public Works will come in and put your approach in to code.
Can you define an approach?
An approach is an entry from a roadway to your property.
Like a driveway?
So like the
Expand your driveway.
work on a sidewalk or something.
Driveway
so-
or a whistle.
Yep, so most places we have the drainage on the sides of the roads and it requires a whistle to go in. Public Works is willing to, upon scheduling with them, obviously, to come in and do that work for the homeowner as long as he provides all of the materials. We also took corrugated metal pipe out of the approved list of materials just because after a while you're replacing it anyway. So it doesn't seem to have quite the standard quality. And we did approved ADS pipe.
Rigid ABS.
Yeah. Rigid outside, smooth inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's basically it. We're not taking away their opportunity. If they don't want to schedule with Public Works, they can have a plumber come in and they can have somebody come in and they can put it in, get inspections from them. That's still on the table. That's the only thing that's really changed is Public Works has agreed to schedule the installation if it works out for the customer.
Now, is this for initial approach, or can they have secondary, and is there lot size for having secondary?
Yes. How's that? No. This is for all. Oh, and there was one other change. This is for all approaches.
Okay, so they could put in multiple approaches on the same property.
If it met the zoning.
If it meets the zoning.
Okay.
And secondly, there was a change in the residential approach. Currently, it's 20 feet wide.
Right.
But with homes that have 3-car garages, we have extended that to 30 feet.
Okay.
So it just doesn't make sense to have a 20-foot approach and then have it's just a useless driveway. You can't use it.
Yeah.
You know, I stayed in a rental like that. It was kind of frustrating. You just couldn't use it. So that was the other change is homes with 3-car garages can expand their approach.
Not have to, but can.
May.
Okay, may.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can request it, a larger one. So,
All right.
that's it.
If there's nothing else, thank you. We'll move to 23. This is also first reading ordinance authorizing the mayor to sign a contract with See My Legacy.
We tabled this one last time, the board had questions about how the funds will be directed for the appropriate place for use.
Yeah.
Carolyn wasn't available here, so I think we might be able to speak to the distribution, I think the utility clerks do. And then Jason had time to find some additional information, I think, as far as where it's coming from in the budget, so hopefully the questions will be able to be answered. Did you want to kind of explain the fund distribution process?
When the donation is received, we put it in an escrow account until it's actually used and it's tracked, if it's specific, and then it goes into the donation revenue. So that's the way we track it. Sometimes we may have unassigned donations, and it will go into the unassigned.
Is that escrow account an interest-bearing account?
Pardon?
Is that escrow account interest-bearing?
No, it's just escrow, well, yes, I said no. It's within our sweep account, which we get interest on it, so yes, it is.
And so how long can it sit in that account if it's not used?
Well, that's a question, I guess, that needs to be
So
decided.
Casey and Dave want to donate $100 to the Parks Department. Is there going to be a policy that dictates that the Parks Department must use that money within X amount of time, or can it just sit?
Currently,
So depending on the project that they want to donate money for, when we set up See My Legacy, we can set it up with various levels and various specifics. So if Casey wants to give $100 for a park bench, she will be donating a portion of the park bench because the park bench costs more than $100. So it will flow into how we rank order our capital improvements. Like we talked about, we're going to do capital improvement plans. Those donations come in. If Dave and Casey and Scott all want to give $100 for a park bench, they may split ownership of that park bench. So we'll hold that until we reach our goal for the project, similar to the way we did with the Better Together. So we'll have that funding there. They can set, when we set up the See My Legacy, they can see what donation they're actually choosing. So if they're choosing a park bench and they want to pay the full $1,500 plus the whatever we set the fee at, when they do that, we'll receive that donation. We'll make the purchase, make the installation, slap the plaque on there. If you upgrade for the QR code plaque, we'll slap the plaque on there for you. And then through the See My Legacy platform, we can also do social media pushes to promote their generosity and philanthropy.
And do I also assume correctly, Carolyn, that fund would be part of our annual audit with Decker and DeGood, or whoever's doing our audit?
Yeah, yes.
The funds that they would look at.
it will show up on the balance sheet each month.
But to go back to a part of your question, that means, Jason, that it does not have a time frame on how long it can sit in that account if there's not enough for that bench or whatever item to come to fruition until said time there is enough money.
Correct.
So do you guys dictate what the projects are though, right?
Correct.
So somebody can't give $100 for something we're never gonna do?
Correct.
Okay.
When we
So I
set
can
this
just
up-
say I love the Parks Department because I like taking long walks on an autumn night and just give it $100.
We can set up a program for that.
Just a general fund?
And when that comes in as every Friday, they send us a CSV report that how much the donation was and what it was earmarked to when they donated it. So that when we put that in the escrow account, we can track that as specifically as we need to.
You might look to see if there's anything that, disclaimers that they have, that, you know, if that project never comes to fruition, that they're to tell people their money may, will still go to the parks, but maybe use in other projects or something.
Use at your discretion, so to speak.
Yeah,
For projects, not
Just in
salaries
case.
or anything like that.
yeah, when we build out the portal, we can write whatever description we want on there, so if it's, if we wanna include that in the text.
We just don't wanna be hanging on to money for 15 years or something.
That's kind of where I was going with it, I could see the accusations.
I mean, it doesn't have to be-
Money that's gaining interest and we're
Yeah, I
all,
think,
we're getting rich because of the interest.
I think a policy about what to do with
And how long it gets
unguided donations is probably
Yeah,
wise.
and I'm sure they just can find places to spend it.
I'm sure they know or have something like that that, I mean, I'm not saying 30 days it has to be spent, it can be held until more comes in, but after a certain amount of time, if nobody's donating to one project, then that money needs to,
Well, if you have a
So we don't-
timetable for the project, I would say
Yeah.
it's a timetable for the money.
Exactly.
right, and then if it's not there, then we don't,
Right.
we wanna try to track people down.
Elsewhere.
We just wanna track people down to get money back.
Yeah.
Not that we wouldn't give money back, but if they moved or gone, then it becomes an issue.
Sure.
Great, I like it.
Also, there's some question on whether it needs to be an ordinance or just authorizing, to accept a quote. It's not really a contract, so, and the money is budgeted in the advertising budget for the Parks Department, so I don't know if we need to do an ordinance or if it needs to be just accepting the quote for.
You don't need to get an ordinance for
I
it.
think we just do a
We
voice
can just do a
vote.
voice vote accepting it, since it's not a continuing,
Right.
each year it'd have to get reapproved or whatever, so that's not it's been budgeted and paid for a bit, so, I mean, it's just authorizing acceptance of that specific quote.
Okay.
But you can do it by vote, so somebody can make a motion to accept it or.
Can we get a motion to accept a quote?
Make a motion to accept a quote as discussed. Crickets.
Do we need more discussion? Hearing concerns? So we have a motion to accept a quote.
Which I believe was it $24.99
Yes,
for 12 months?
correct.
Do we have a second? Okay, then motion fails. All right. Item number 24 is a first read also, an ordinance approving the 2025 park fees.
Thank you. This is just some housekeeping. The fees need to be set by ordinance, so they are in your packet. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about those. You see some highlights there that are the changes. We have increased the late fee for sports registration by $5. Really just to encourage people to sign up promptly. We added a daily camp fee for summer camp to hopefully capture some of those people who may not need a full week of childcare, but do need some childcare. And then the weekly fee on that has been raised from $120 to $135 to offset some of our costs for an increase in minimum wage. And we added a no lunch provided by parent fee for our camp kids because some of our parents are forgetful or neglectful or just don't think about sending lunch. So we've added a fee so that we can provide a lunch for them if they don't have one. We put in a line for a middle school adventure camp and a counselor and training camp program. The counselor and training camp program would be to hopefully bring some of our aging out of camp kids into the pre-employment pipeline. If you're above 6th grade, you may not technically need childcare, but your parents may not really want to leave you home alone. So we can both provide a little bit of structure and use an extra set of hands. That's reduced from the normal fee. We provide training, some supervision. The middle school adventure camp is the next step up from that counselor in training. You're not really ready to be a counselor in training yet, but your parents definitely don't trust you. So this is a program we put in the fees now just in case we need to add it, in case we're able to get that program off the ground. At this point, it's not a program that we're really pursuing, but we did want to have it in there in case there is the interest. We added a full rec facility rental fee for things like lock-ins, basketball tournaments. We split out in Freedom Fest the craft vendors from the food vendors for the food size or for the booth sizes to hopefully drive some of our small crafters that were maybe daunted a little bit by the larger fees that the food vendors would pay. And then we're getting down into the weeds of changing the individual monthly membership to the rec center from $15 a month to $20 a month. And then the family pool membership from $85 a month to $90 a month. And then we added a late, a processing change fee for parents who have now received their practice nights and decide that's not the practice night they want to be on, but we have also already ordered our t-shirts. So it's basically to cover the staff time of shuffling that kid to a different team and ordering a new t-shirt.
Is the change fee for that enough?
Yeah.
Because I know that ordering another shirt can, just one or two shirts can sometimes.
Yeah, so it covers the cost of doing the thing. It's not really intended to dissuade anyone from doing it. It's just that so we don't eat the cost of those t-shirts.
Right. That's what I mean. I totally get what the point of that is.
So it looks like we didn't raise the majority of the fees from 24 to 25, just the late fee.
Correct.
And then we're charging more for a middle school kid than a summer camp kid, which I would think a middle school would need less supervision, but that could be wrong. Are you sure about that?
Middle school. The amount of supervision in terms of like putting keys in outlets is lower, but as far as
Lighters and.
yeah, what we want to do with that program is make it a more specialized program. So instead of doing the hang out at the rec center and shoot baskets and play dodgeball, it may be more field trip heavy. So we may spend some time learning the principles of team building and then taking them to do a higher low ropes course or
Less glitter and more go.
To spend some time maybe learning about fly tying and then go to Bennett Springs or something like that. It's more of an adventure camp than a childcare camp.
Those are the kids that aren't gonna walk up to the pool in
Yeah.
a long line holding hands.
Yeah, that's right.
And then, I've asked this question a couple of times now. So the fees that we have in place, as an example for soccer, the number of players that we have times the fees covers the full cost of the program.
It does. Our sports programs are actually our closest to profitable. So once you incorporate in turf maintenance, those fees are nearly break even. For baseball, we have discussed this summer. We will maintain our pre-K and 5 and 6-year-old leagues, but the older leagues, we're actually gonna scrap those because we haven't had the numbers to carry through a 10-player, 4-team league in the 4th and 5th, or the 3rd and 4th and 5th and 6th. So we're actually pulling those off. But at a certain point, we price the kids out, and then we don't have enough kids to do the league. And we end up with a situation for much of the pool. We can't price the pool at a point where it's profitable. So we have to,
Not profitable, just break even.
but we won't be able to price the pool break even either. But yeah, these fees are in line with what the market carries right now, as far as compared to other local communities.
So in examining last year's numbers for the different teams or activities and contrasting it with expenses, like Joyce was talking about, do we have a pretty good idea that we are not losing money on the ones that we're going to continue with, or come very close to breaking even? And if I would say very close,
So
meaning within
with the
couple
youth,
$1,000.
yeah, with the youth sports programs, those programs are consistently between $2,000 and $6,000 a season of revenue,
a piece? Okay.
even after staff costs. So our narrowest margin was actually baseball, but soccer, basketball, those are both fairly profitable.
Do
Like,
the
they
adult
actually are
programs
in
bring
the
in
black.
much?
I'm sorry?
Do the adult programs bring in much?
No, the adult programs are really placeholders because every year we try to run an adult program, and every year we get about 4 individuals that say we're gonna have a team, but then the team never materializes. So we don't actually offer many adult programs.
Is there anything else, Joyce?
And I mean, if he says he's covering his costs, I mean, I look at some of the parent nights out, and again, it's been a long time since I've had a child that I've had to pay for childcare. And I have asked for those breakdowns and have not received them in the past. I just think that, again, I'm not asking the parks to make money. I just think that it feels like we haven't always been it feels like we subsidize parks an awful lot.
Can we get a breakdown from 2024 of these programs that are in existence now? Can we get a breakdown at some point in the very near future of each sport and what it made
Sure.
for 2024?
Yeah, that shouldn't be difficult.
In contrast to what you believe the cost was, as best you can figure.
And I think field maintenance, I know that you have said that field maintenance is not something that you count, but if the kids aren't on the field tearing it up, then we don't have to maintain the field. So that is a part of the cost of having to do
To a
that.
degree, yeah, so to a degree. I think I would prefer to have some guidance on how we determine how much is sports-related field maintenance and how much is just property-related field maintenance, because, like, for example, the baseball fields, they're open 24/7. So if we've got people that are on the field and break an ankle outside of an organized league, that's gonna be a liability for us. So I think some guidance on what percentage of time we count field maintenance for compared to when we have league play going versus when we just have open play. Because I view the baseball fields the same as the parks. And if we've got a bunch of mole runs in our parks, and we have an added risk there because we haven't maintained it properly, that So I guess I just would like some guidance on how you want that breakdown to shake out.
I think that would be something.
So I would say that,
Less.
I mean,
The
just
percentage of it
from my
at least.
perspective, it would be that obviously during the season, you'd have the cost of maintenance because people are running cleats and it needs to be graded and all that stuff, but then there's kind of the off-season where no one's up there playing.
I disagree.
Can I?
Because my daughter's softball team used to go up there in the off-season, we would go up and they would have practice on the field.
Like January and February?
Yeah, we were up there in the frigid cold in
Mayor, can
February,
I interject a little bit?
so.
Coming from a guy who had to maintain a lot of baseball fields in his life, it's easier to maintain year-round than to let it go and try to maintain it during the season. It's a lot cheaper to do it that way versus trying to keep up the 3 months that you are actually playing on
I
it.
can
So,
see that.
I would say the devil's in the details. I have a meeting with Jason, we've been going over, kind of trying to cut some costs and look for some low-hanging fruit and some easy things to shore up the parks budget a little bit. So we'll discuss the details and how we're gonna break that down and give you some direction, maybe come up with some ideas. And then we'll work on getting some budgets together that kind of show the break-even points for each program that you guys can look at. I think from discussions we've had, the problem seems to be, at least right now, maybe at a high level, so we're trying to address that with some reductions across the board, and then re-looking at seasonal employee use and other areas that maybe we can control a little bit better to bring that transfer amount down. Just conversations we're having, and we'll keep you updated on all that, but for now, we'll work towards this.
Can we have the numbers within 30 days?
Yeah.
Jason, no, I don't want to hear about this. Community center and cleaning closets. I've heard needed some excess cleaning after events from rentals.
Yes, so currently we do not have a full-time custodian. We have, a few years back, I can't remember exactly when, we went away from charging a cleaning deposit. We did, because the building was, the guidance at the time was we should allow booking of the building online, and we don't have a way to set up the cleaning deposit as refundable online. So what we end up doing is we end up taking a $325 deposit and then refunding a portion of that. But because we don't have a full-time custodian on staff to do the, verify, it was a on your honor system, and of course, everyone does a perfect job cleaning after they leave. So we were unable to fairly assess that cleaning deposit and cleaning fee.
Having to pay somebody to come in, that's ridiculous. And you've heard the complaints.
I have heard the complaints. So I have heard the complaints, and I have also received instructions to shrink the staff some. So
I know, but, but we're having to pay extra for that staff to go in and clean.
Why can't we make it a non-refundable cleaning deposit?
we could do that.
Because then you'd be cleaning that thing after every rental. If you're gonna charge me a non-refundable cleaning, I'm not cleaning.
That's true.
That's gonna be the mindset you'll get.
That is true. I know every time I've rented it, we've spent a fair amount of time.
Before you could use it, yeah.
No,
Oh,
we
no.
made sure when we leave it that it's in better condition than we walked in. But we also don't typically use the kitchen for much. So-
Jason, can you verify this for me, because you've been here longer than we have? Was there an actual agreement that the seniors, if they purchased the equipment in there, that would be their payment, if you will, to be able to use that?
I believe it is incorporated into ordinance that they will never be charged a fee for the use of the building since 1992 or 93.
define senior.
Yes.
So is this
Seniors
something,
group.
and I know
There's a
we're getting off the agenda a little
Sure,
bit, but
sir.
is this something that we need to, address in writing for the future? Come up with a policy that will hopefully alleviate the situation, that people use it, pay for it, pay for the cleaning, and other issues? I mean, sounds to me that's probably what needs to be done.
Well, I think if there's an agreement for free usage, that doesn't mean they don't have to clean
Abuse
it.
it.
Yeah.
Well, no, they clean it, they're having to clean it after
Other people.
other people.
Okay.
So I'm talking about, yeah, for going forward, other people, and if they have to provide some money or whatever for cleaning, or we need to come up with something so we can just get this situation fixed. But then I got a feeling it's gonna be like the very next item on the agenda.
So you said there was no way to take a cleaning deposit online?
The cleaning deposit we can take, it is hard to, because we don't have a full-time custodian, it is hard to send someone at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon and say, make sure they cleaned it.
For the next.
So without that step in place,
Because the rentals are back to back.
because the rentals
Okay.
are stacked up.
Gotcha.
Are we having to send somebody over to unlock the
They
door?
could take
No,
photos.
because you pick up the
I'm
key
sorry, what's
at the
Can I have to
website.
take pictures and send them over to us?
We could.
And if they don't send the pictures, then we'll assume it was filthy and you just don't get your thing back.
Sounds good. There's a key code door.
You could do pictures like that.
You do that.
We could take pictures to show it's clean when they're done.
Verification.
Like realtors, they'll take sneaky
Specific.
pictures.
Take
And it
specific
won't show
pictures
what-
of specific stuff.
We could probably tell them, maybe put some X's on the floor, stand here, take a picture that way. Stand here, take a picture that way.
Yeah, it's too bad we have to address this, but.
Yeah, well, there's always someone
That's the way it is.
ruin it for everybody else, but we can
That's how
come
it
up with some
goes.
stuff and write a policy and have
The
the
rental
consideration.
agreement is part of the rental agreement.
Yeah, it's no different than renting a house in some ways, you have a,
I mean,
have a
when you
handover
rent an
inspection of sorts.
Airbnb, you have specific
Mhm.
things, and if you don't follow them,
You don't get your,
Don't
you don't
get-
get your deposit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Are there cameras in there? I don't believe there is. There's no cameras in there, is there?
There are cameras in there, as are many of the Parks Department cameras. They are self-installed, and they are DVR based.
so we have an excellent tech support staff, is what you're saying?
No. I have a master of none tech support staff. There are cameras there, there is a DVR, they are not live. The cameras are live. The DVR system is not, web-based, cloud-based,
So they're not
real-time ready, so the cameras are checked.
Well, you guys put your mind power together
That'd be a
Figure it out.
cheap, but
So
that,
I
I
think
would
it's-
say, that
and
is.
figure
not
out
part
something
of it.
right.
Use that to remind me, when I get clean.
We're gonna have to address
Because
that
when I
one
go
real
in, there's
fast.
something mice in there, other people are having to go in, and after other people's in there, and to clean up after everybody, so. With the IQ power in this room, I'm sure somebody can figure something out. All right, item number 25. Speaking of money, an ordinance approving special event fee schedule for outside organizations.
Thank you, Mayor. This is essentially just a cost covering measure to cover the cost of events when they come into town. And it's basically just the salaries of the workers that are involved in the planning and distribution of that event.
Are we planning on trying to bring in more events?
The Parks Department is not actively seeking additional third-party events. We are trying to increase the number of parks-sponsored events, like 5Ks and that kind of thing, but we're not actively pursuing other events.
So 5Ks coming through, how much road closure would that require?
Historically, the Parks Department has done their 5Ks on the trail, and we just require crossing guards, so not a lot of road closure.
And it looks like in the policy that is in here that you have anything over 90 minutes and those items under 90 minutes in your breakdown. So that would cover the quick events, but the things like the parades, those are gonna be more expensive.
Right.
So when it comes to parades, we really only have 2 parades that are not city sponsored. The
Correct.
Veterans Parade and Homecoming Parade, right?
Correct.
Okay. So from looking at this proposal, there's a very clear waiver process for school student sponsored events. So I'm gonna put on my veteran's wife hat here for just a moment. I don't see this really being a huge benefit to the city, because what I think is gonna happen is I think that we're going to put this into place, and I think that the Veterans Parade is going to be the one and only real, true profit on it. And they're gonna say, we're going back to Springfield because we have an attorney in Springfield who's gonna pay our fees there. The whole reason that they came to Willard. And I
So,
think this is gonna be a moot point.
so there also is the public benefit waiver criteria meets, and I feel like that if an organization, whether the veterans group or the student group, wants to come and present to the board, let the board make the determination if the city is willing to just cover the cost of that event. The idea is to remove the Parks Department from that decision-making process just solely because the objective is not to prohibit or discourage anyone from having an event. It's just to make sure that we can cover the costs associated with the event. I understand that it may feel like the veterans event is being picked on because they're not a student-led event or a nonprofit in the 501c3 category.
They are though.
Do what?
They are.
In the 501c3 category, they're a 501c19.
C19.
C19,
Yeah, so, and that, if the board is willing to accept that cost as just the cost of operation of having an event, as a veteran myself, I don't really see the cost as being prohibitive, because I know for a fact that there are several businesses in town that would be happy to sponsor a veterans parade in Willard. And I know this because when the city was more heavily involved, we received sponsorships to do that, to cover those costs. There was some static in that process, so the city has kind of stepped back, and thus the policy.
So you do have the catch-all, if anybody has not had time to read it, that the option number 3 is that any organization would have the ability to come in front of the board within 60 days or 60 days prior to the event and ask for the board's approval to approve it and the city eat the cost. Just keep in mind that from a civil litigation point that, can you correct me if I'm wrong, that if you approve things for one group and another group that some people may deem as unsavory comes and asks for the same thing, and we say no, then it could be an ACLU issue. Cincinnati's got a deal going on right now with that very issue. But, obviously, do what you want, but just keep that in mind. Because there is a cost involved to the Parks Department, Public Works, Police, to have parades. And what I can tell you is, from a Springfield standpoint, without going back to Springfield, police officers there got paid overtime. And we're talking 20, 30, 40 guys, all making overtime to go direct traffic. So, I assure you it's a lot more expensive than other places. And then there are other places that require insurance. So, just my 2 cents worth. Was I correct about the ACLU issue?
Yeah, you treat people the same.
So if there are other groups that would like to come and parade,
So if we do this and then veterans come before the board and say, we'd like it waived, and we waive it. Then the Mardi Gras comes. Mardi Gras, I'm from Louisiana, so. Mardi Gras comes, and we're like, yeah, you know, that gets a little wild and out of hand.
Well, you
And
can,
we don't do it, then if they're like, they feel it's fair, then we have issues.
it just needs to be speech and content neutral on your policy. So if you say 501c19s are gonna get this rate, then that's fine, all 5, they fit into that category. Versus where you're gonna get into trouble is when you're trying to judge each person on what their parade is. Like, oh, that one's gonna be more because it's got this. I mean, if it's a known cost, it's gonna be more, that we're gonna have more trash, or we're gonna have more, I mean, different stuff like
Been to Mardi
that.
Gras before?
I've been to New Orleans on New Year's before.
Those little troughs, you know what those are for, right?
There's a lot of trash to pick up, and they have, and
Trucks.
they clean it really quickly.
We don't have any of those here.
Yeah, I mean, you just wanna make sure that however you approve it, you're not looking at it as, you're better off by having set policies that you can follow versus trying to get that, cause I'm not sure Mardi Gras is necessarily what you're worried about. You're worried about
What's
an
wrong with
organization
the
that comes, that comes in that's got a unsavory message that is contrary to what you all believe in, and then there are gonna be protesters here for that, they're protesters, and now all of a sudden we're like, well, we need a lot of police. And we go, well, our policy is we only charge $300 for everybody, then that's gonna be a problem. So,
We have that program that runs the cell phones, right? Do we know how many people
I think it's a negligible increase.
what about with the tap room open now? I'm sure it's gonna be a lot.
We haven't looked since the tap room opened.
I know. But for the Veterans Parade, I'm sure it's gonna be.
Yeah, I don't think it was super high. I think we were looking at about 350, wasn't it?
Over average, yeah, about 350 over average for the day of the event.
The question would be, I think, not necessarily the increase. I mean, if we're looking at the benefit to the community, like if you look at Freedom Fest, you can track those individuals and kind of, well, I say it carefully, not the specific individual, but you can look at the
movement.
Yeah, the movement of people, you know, for example, McDonald's, we saw a 55,000 person increase in their business rate in the day. So, you know, it's not as tangible as Freedom Fest. We could drill in and see if there's enough data to see where the 350 people go, but since it's such a low swelling, I mean, it could be just because it's the right day of the week. I mean, it's tough to connect the two.
And that 350 might just be the ones in the parade.
They may just come, go to the parade and head out. Yeah, for all we know. It's a difficult one, but there is a.
well, the 3 options, I
There
think,
is that
gives us a
comment.
lot of latitude. I mean,
It does.
it gives us a lot of latitude for the students, and there's even some verbiage in there about hardship, and, you know, if an organization can show that they don't have the means, that obviously the board and the Parks Department has the ability to grant them, you know, the ability to have a small event, if, you know, they can show they don't have the money.
I would look at it kind of like what I've been doing with the employee policies. You know, it's sometimes good just to have something in writing that people can refer to so that nobody feels this disparate treatment. You can all look at the policy, see exactly what to expect. I'd like to start an event here. I'd like to do it on this day. What's the process? What's the cost? What are my options? Can I approach the board and ask for an out? If so, what does that look like? So I think this kind of lays down that structural approach to know what is going to be entailed by coming here to the city to.
It's similar event to, you know, when the kids asked for, you know, the special approval for the fireworks. You know, outside of our policy, and they came in front of the board, and the board granted them permission. So it was very similar to that.
Mhm.
That,
And just because it's a policy doesn't mean you can't just waive out at any time, but like Troy said, you've also got to be mindful once you set precedents, you have to honor those precedents, and future boards have to honor those same precedents as well. But I think it's a good structural approach, and then, you know, as we go into it, we may realize some tweaks worth making or other things that we might consider, but it's a starting point, it's structured, it does lay out expectations quite clearly for everybody to follow. I think in that way it's a benefit.
all right. Is there anything else on that subject? Joyce? You almost had
No, I mean,
you had a quizzical look on your face, like the
I'm
wheels were turning.
That's great. No, I mean, I think we need to have something in place. I just am concerned, like, when we approve a waiver, what does, I mean, I don't wanna set myself up.
The next group coming down the pike to
Yeah.
ask.
To be fair, with or without this policy, that can happen in.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are for organized events.
Mhm.
You know, if they show up randomly in your park, there's not a whole lot you can do about it,
Yeah.
because it's a public forum,
But, I mean, I'm definitely about recovering costs that is incurred because you wanna have a party.
Yeah,
Um,
especially from a department that's hemorrhaging money. That's just my 2 cents. Well, is it not true?
That's true.
And that is another consideration that you guys have. I mean, it may be a nice thing to do, but we can't do things at the expense of common sense and fiscal responsibility. We have a responsibility to make sure we're doing the right thing. And it may not be maybe politically friendly, but sometimes you've got to do the right thing because it's budgetarily right. I mean, we had similar discussions with the rates. I may not want to necessarily make one group feel like they're being scapegoated, but it's not as big as one group's fault for blah or X, but you know, opportunity to recover costs and make sure we're doing that in a structured and fair and appropriate manner.
Well, and I'm just gonna throw this idea out there too, because I had this conversation with somebody, and, you know, maybe this is inappropriate, maybe it's not, I don't know, but obviously, when it comes to quality of life issues, I mean, we all do love parades, and from a capitalist and commercial standpoint, it's good for the city. And it would seem to me that if there was gonna be a cost incurred, that the Chamber of Commerce,
Yeah, that's what I was just getting
the
ready to
people that
ask.
derive a lot of the benefit from these big events, it would seem to me, and you said you're a member of the Chamber, right, Jason?
I am.
That I would think that they would have a fund events. Have you ever had one or discussed one or?
An events fund?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would think the Chamber would want to be heavily involved in this.
The chamber has been in conversations about doing more networking type funds. I know that they support the Parks Department with the Freedom Fest event by providing some financial support there. And I think, you know, I can't speak for the entirety of the board, but I think that there would be interest from the board in supporting activities that benefit the businesses that are within the chamber.
Sure. Just a thought. All right then. Item number 26, an ordinance authorizing a contract with Premier Pyrotechnics for the Freedom Fest fireworks. It's first reading.
This is a contract for fireworks for Freedom Fest. Premier Pyrotechnics returned a bid. 2 other companies said it was too small a show for them to be interested in, and a third company said that they don't have the necessary licensure to be able to submit a bid.
So So that left Premier the last person standing.
Premier's the last person standing. Premier has been who we've used the last several years. I think we're on year 6 with Premier now. They are good to work with, and I think they do an all right show. Last year's show was a little rushed, but like it, so.
I was gonna say, there were a little bit of external
Yeah.
issues there.
My only concern is it's a 3-year, that's Wes and I kind of discussed a few minutes ago. I mean, does that tie future boards into that? And he says they can get out of that. So, but if we can't get out of the uniform thing, then can we get out of the firecracker thing?
That's the challenge, yeah, I mean, you're not supposed to be able to tie future boards, but at the same time you can, and there can be difficulty in backing out of certain things, so.
Well, you need to look at the contract and it'd have to provide for future funding. The difference is if you're gonna fund a different fireworks show, you know, or something, you know, that's similar to whatever, you can't swap one for the other, because then you're gonna, well, you did fund that.
Mhm.
So you should have honored the contract that you had, so.
It's difficult.
All right. Item number 27, project manager updates. Number 27, approval of advertising for bids for the Meadows Gravity Trunk Sewer.
We're to the point where we're very close to needing to advertise for bids for the Meadows Gravity Trunk Sewer. And what I'd like is approval or a motion to authorize Auger Martin and Associates to advertise and solicit for competitive bids for the Meadows Gravity Trunk Sewer. And also to participate in public opening and tabulation of those bids, all per our agreement with Auger Martin and Associates. Which is basically saying everybody's on board, let's bid it and see what happens.
Okay. If nobody has any questions or concerns, can we get a motion?
We don't have it handy written in front of us.
I would make a motion that we allow Alder Martin to put the Meadows forced sewer main out to Gravity Trunk. That we put that out to bid and see what we can get on that.
And to, participate in opening tabulation thereof.
I'll second.
My apologies, I should have wrote that out, but
All right, I have a first and a second. Alderman Villier?
Yes.
Alderman Hill?
Yes.
Alderman Keen?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item number 28, sanitary sewer status update. Was there anything to do with that, Steve?
well, a few developments. We're getting very near the end on the plans for the lift station modification. This is for the 94 lift station in Forest Main. We're wrapping up review of construction and cost for Forest Main nearing completion. Our next step is then to submit the plans and specs to Missouri Department of Natural Resources for approval and issuance of a construction permit. Now, here's a wrinkle if you keep up with the news. Trump froze all grant programs about a week and a half ago. A judge issued a temporary restraining order and he, quote, unfroze them. But this afternoon, everything was back before that judge saying that you said you unfroze them, but you really didn't unfreeze them. And contempt of court may come out of this. And it could go all the way through appeals, as high as they want to push it. So, right now, we have received 2 reimbursements under the grant program. We've got one coming up here for the design work. When that is ready to be sent in, I will send it in and we'll see if anyone's in Kansas City EPA office to receive it and process it. I got an email from the EPA that several of the people we were involved with in this project have been reassigned at the same time that freeze went into effect. I'm concerned. I'm not ready to throw in the towel yet, but this muddies the water considerably. I've never seen anything like it where a congressionally mandated appropriation was impounded. And that happened in big scale a week and a half ago. Onto the meadows. Sewer and temporary easements have been secured and recorded with Greene County Recorder Deeds for 6 of the 7 tracts. We're still playing with the 8th one a little bit on getting all the trust certifications to make sure we're dealing with the right parties, or prove we can. And the other part of that report was advertising for bids, but you've addressed that previously. So if anybody got any questions, be glad to answer them.
All right, thank you, Steve. Next item, city administrator remarks.
Nothing too taxing for me today. Working towards get some conference room worked out. We've budgeted an amount for a bigger screen up here. I'm going to try and get that a little cheaper and then see if we can upgrade some of the microphones. Jeremy's looked at some of what we have. Looks like these screens can continue to work and then we can have it boosted up there so we can kind of see in the back of the room what's going on as well instead of just the front of the room. And then of course the microphones, we find they tend to be fairly quiet and this doesn't pick up as well as maybe it could. So Jeremy's explored some options for wireless microphones and things to kind of help feed the sound into this computer, which will then generate the recording for our online source. I think as far as how that's working on the back end now, it's working very well and ties up to the agenda. So folks can click the things that they're interested in and take them right to the piece of the video, so they can just listen to that piece instead of the document. So we want it to work as well as possible and we want people to be able to hear. So hopefully get that going here shortly. You'll see there's been a little bit of a clean out in here as well. So we're kind of moving this room in a positive direction. Working on a seasonal employee policy with Jason. We've been looking at how we handle those. So hopefully have that for you soon. And then hoping this week there'll be an update on our city app. We're hoping to see a good uptake on that. Obviously we're trying to leverage that as far as getting word out to people and notifications when new content is added. So I should have an update on that soon to let you know how that's going. Also let us know if we need to do another marketing push just to make sure people understand that it does exist and it does function and it seems to function well. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any new business? No new business. Any unfinished business? No unfinished business. Before we adjourn, I just want to thank everybody for staying late. I would like to thank Jeremy for breaking some land speed records to get here so we can conduct city business. And those of you that were here, I appreciate your effort and your sense of volunteerism. So thank you very much. Item number 13. Can we get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Alderman Gilliard?
Yes.
Alderman Hall? Alderman King? Alderman Lancaster? Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
Thank
You
you.
wanted to stay?
That's it.
You staying after? Too bad.